Hello, sweet people.
Hi.
We're back here with another episode of this podcast that now has changed its name. It's now called Plant Wisdom. Whoop, whoop. And so this is episode 6. And today I invited Stephan, my wonderful husband, to come and join us in a conversation about coming into presence with plants. And so we want to have a conversation about going beyond kind of peak experiences with plants, so on going on a retreat or going on, a cacao ceremony for 3 hours and sitting in circle, like beyond these kind of moments. How can we come into presence with plants, and what does that even mean? So that's the theme of today's conversation. I'm very much in a Blue Lotus energy. I'm in my 6 months Blue Lotus container. This is the 3rd week. And so much is happening all the time, so many teachings. And I feel Stephan is very much in an oak process.
True.
You can talk about that yourself. So I guess the two main plants we're bringing in today is oak and Blue Lotus, and I guess there's always a little cacao somewhere.
Definitely.
Yeah. So Stephan, what does it mean to come into presence for you? What is that?
What is presence? Yeah, it is for me, it's the middle point between future and past, so the ever-present moment. It is a place, a space, but it doesn't take any space. It happens all the time, and it continues happening. And it has its past and it has its future, where the future is unwritten and the past is gone. So it is the exact moment of like the eye in the storm, so to say, where the world turns around. It's the axis mundi, the center point of our life, where everything happens around us and behind us and in front of us. It is a point between, in the center of the drama triangle, so to say. It's not the savior, it's not the perpetrator, and it's by far not the victim. It doesn't touch any of these. It is just there. It is a form of interacting with the world, but not a form of action. So it is presence, it is life, it is love, and I feel like it is connected, or maybe it is even self. So our true nature, our self, our higher self, or whatever you want to say to that, God's particle or the spark of life or whatever.
There's also some like saying greater self and not higher self, as if there's a hierarchy, so it's more like a bigger self.
It's a good form.
Yeah. So how do you feel that moment, that present moment, is connected to plants? Or how is it connected for you with the wisdom of plants?
I feel nature in general is something which is present. So we can definitely see the past, what has grown so far in each plant. But I don't think that plants are necessarily planning ahead. They do their best to create the atmosphere of a future seed, maybe to flourish. And especially plants are not, if we're putting it into another concept of fight and flight, which is an aspect of our more mammal brain. It's not there. It is there. It is there.
Plants
are there. So plants are not in that fight or flight mode, but they are there. They're just, how to say, not enduring a situation, but being present in whatever comes. Because there is no way of a plant to disassociate. It's not going away, it's not running away, it's not fighting, but it is reacting to something. It's clearly to see in the plants, chemicals are changing when there's a big amount of a herd of snails coming, and then they're getting more bitter. There's a reaction to a threat, yes. But I feel like it comes out of the present moment. And I feel like when we see those old teachers, like Buddha was sitting under a tree for years maybe, and I don't think he was planning ahead, and I don't think necessarily that he was contemplating much on the past. And I feel like that's a teaching of that tree, of that plant, to deal with whatever is there. And yeah, it's there are some things we can't predict, but we cannot really. The future is always open. We can see a line coming from the past and wanna go into the future. That is something predictable, and that's where our minds are ticking on, or hooking in. But really changing that, it's not about what we are able to. It's sometimes an illusion.
At least I can see when I feel, and I like to talk about it as peak moments, right? We can go on a retreat or have a ceremony like where we really are present. We're experiencing that like full presence, full aliveness, and we're just here, and everything is okay. Like from that present moment, it's like, oh, I am alive with myself. And I feel I'm not only present, but I'm also with myself, in myself. I am here. Where sometimes in life I can get the tendency to kind of step out of myself, right? I learned that. I can especially see that from the school system of like, yeah, whatever your needs are, whatever your wants are, doesn't matter right now because there's an exam. So put yourself aside and then come back to yourself later, right? We learned that. And so I feel, so we have these moments where that can happen. And one of the things that I love about connecting deeper with plants on a daily basis and having like practices with them, and it doesn't just have to be plants, but now I feel plants have that physicality, and what you're saying, like they're really present, can help us cultivate or become aware, come into presence beyond peak experiences, beyond that like amazing holiday in Bali or that one sunset 3 years ago, or you know, like and I think you and me, we have this like saying from our couples therapist about having like almost as if our relationship has a bowl, and we have to keep filling that. We have to put things into it, and then beautiful things emerge out of that. But you can't just expect beautiful flowers to appear in the relationship without actually giving good stuff to the soil and planting seeds and watering it, and like also just doing those everyday things to cultivate that presence. And once you then cultivate, and then that's what I feel with like plant practices beyond once in a while sitting in a circle, but bringing it more into life, then I feel there are more of these spontaneous moments of presence, spontaneous moments of aliveness within myself, because I feel that is, yes, it can happen spontaneously, but it is also something that we can cultivate. It's something we can practice. It's
Definitely.
something we can create more of, right? Yeah. So how are you feeling with like coming into presence, and how do you feel that the plant, maybe oak is, or your practice or your connection with oak is teaching you that or helping you with that?
I was just thinking about just imagine the year's cycle of now being, well, we are definitely in autumn, going towards winter time. For me, it's clearly noticeable that the presence of oak is going down to the roots. It's not as strong as it is, by example, on July and August, where they are highly vibrating and you can almost shake hands with them. Now they are going down, and for me, this is a symbol of adapting to a greater cycle in nature. So I don't think that oak is planning to do that ahead, but it is adapting to how nature is changing. So how the stars are presenting themselves, how the moon is coming, and especially out of the year then how the sun is doing. So now the sun becomes less and less. So a plant would be adapting to the outer circumstances and having therefore a feeling, a senses for what is around us. So that means being in the present moment is not shutting down our eyes and being in contemplation for us ourselves, having blindfolds on and disassociating of the world. No, it is being present with what is soever and adapting ourselves to the energies which are there. And I think plants are doing that really great. So with oak, it's the big invitation now to open up for the grounds and getting accustomed that we are going a little bit more into earth, means into ourselves. It's not so much about the big expressions. It's more about the exhale, the going further in. Also, we're doing this naturally. We're also going more into the houses and putting on more candlelight. So this is all also our movements we have.
And yeah, it's just when you're talking, it reminds me, I was sitting with an oak tree yesterday, alone in the forest, and it has fallen down maybe a year before or something. So it's like really big, really old, and fallen down. So I could walk on the branches, like being a few meters up and walking, and they were still like broader than me, so I could like walk on them. And I was sitting with this oak, and it was so interesting to be contemplating with the energy of this tree that in some ways you could say it's dead, but the echo of its life was still there, but it was still in the process of getting broken down, right? Small animals eating of it. And so it was like, in a way still alive, and in a way not. And I felt with oak in these like big time frames, really reminding me, there's this again, like teaching that I feel a lot with plants. It's a lot of what they're sharing with me is not necessarily new, but it's something that I have to remember again, like reawaken within me. It's already there. And so sometimes when we hear people talking, it could be like, oh, I know that. Yeah, you know that. But like, do you remember it? Like, know it again. Like, lean into it again. And what Oak was sharing with me was this, like, hey, remember to focus on not just the new seeds that you want to have coming, not just like the future, but like right now, what's present right now. What are you creating right now? What is happening in your life right now? Though at the same time, because that's where for me, you're talking a lot about planning right now, and for me, I feel everything is weavings, like weavings of energy, and it might also come from us studying with the Chipipo and living in the jungle and working with lines of energy. But it's like we have the center weaving, like the first line of weaving that comes from source, right? It's like the soul coming in, and whatever we weave in this life, there is like, in sometimes it does make sense to look ahead, so we plan what we're weaving. However, if I'm constantly with my mind out in the future, let's say right now, that's very much like the Blue Lotus journey that we're doing. If I'm constantly there, I can lose sense of what my hands are weaving right now, right? And then I lose myself. I can lose myself in the past or in the future, and then I'm suddenly not present anymore. And I think we all know that. It can also be triggered or something, but then it's like we're gone for a little while, somewhere else than right now, right here. But I find it as this interesting, like, be present with what is, and also it makes sense to look ahead. There is, like, what we're talking about is our business as our teacher, and our business as an example, Mighty 3DK, and as our masculine partner, that needs structure, that needs like looking ahead, that needs planning, so that we can be present and lean into that structure. So I find it this interesting thing of not getting lost in the planning, but also having the vision of like, what am I weaving? But also not getting lost in the weaving. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
And you cannot get out of contact of what you're actual weaving.
I mean, you can.
But then you are not weaving anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Maybe not.
Then something else happens then you are at least not conscious about it.
Yeah, I feel then it's more like suddenly you weaved something where you're like, oh, I have to go back.
What are these knots here?
Yeah, exactly. I have to
God.
get it back. I'm like, no, can I fix it?
Got the strings somehow weirdly connected. Yeah.
Like creating something out of that fight-flight space. Yes. Okay, just do something. Weave something.
So you were not aware of what you're actually doing. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and I'm thinking about, like, for instance, right now with Blue Lotus, what is so different for me with working with Blue Lotus every single day instead of once in a while in ceremony, or just like once in a while again, like these peak experiences and there's nothing wrong with peak experiences. They're beautiful, and it's beautiful to have that once in a while check in. Oh, here you are again. But what I feel is very different with that kind of deeper relationship is, if we compare it to people, there are some friends that I meet a few times a year, and I love checking in with them, and it's amazing, and we have a really nice time. We can go really deep. But there's a very difference to some of the friends, or what I can do with you, where it's like also meeting me when I'm really frustrated, or when I'm really deep in a process, or when I'm really tired, or all these other experiences, or just like a cup of tea in the morning, right? There's a whole variety of life that goes beyond that once in a while check-in. And bringing the plants into all of that variety, for me, is really creating another taste, another presence, and cultivating way more presence all the time. Because I don't just want to be present in plant ceremonies when I sit and drink cacao. I want to be present all the time when I eat my food, when I have a conversation, when I'm giving a hug, when I'm as today I was putting calendulas on a string, and I want to hang it up, and like with every single calendula flower, right? I want to be as present as I can in life, having this like deep love affair with life, and with myself, and with you, and with plants. And so I feel that working right now with Blue Lotus every single day is helping me step deeper into that love affair also with you. She like comes in and weaves into everything, but not if I lose myself, not if I'm not here. And I feel that's really what she's teaching me these days, of really reminding me, like, my dharma, like my purpose, my path, what I'm supposed to do here isn't necessarily creating this thing out in the future. That project was what I was here to give the world. No, it's every single moment there's a choice.
You can only create in the present moment. You cannot create something in the future.
But not even of creating it. Just me being present with me in this moment is so much more important for my Dharma than planning some big project somewhere to help the world.
I'm just tuning into some nice flowers out there, and just felt like, there must be a longing for the future. In a way, why, they're perennial plants. They're there this year. Mm-hmm. They will die in the winter. They're gone. Even not their roots will be there anymore. So what you're doing is they are doing what I feel is they try to create the most beautiful idea of a future and then presenting this over to the world. But how should they think about or feel about a future when they are not even there? And I think this is the same thing for us. We might think about our future and we might think about that, but what is about a future where we are not even there? And where we cannot even influence anything? So wouldn't it be not something like we want to create something most beautiful in the present moment for the future to take steps on it? And so that becomes then an absolute meditation. And I think that is what you were speaking of not just having it in a planned ceremony, not just having it on a certain time. And the approach is to be there constantly.
Yeah.
And that is a big meditation, of course.
It's a big meditation.
This is nothing which will work just right away.
Yeah.
As you said in the entry, that we're as in our society pretty much tuned into leaving us and our selves behind of doing something which seems to be more important than us. I feel like this is a very trauma-based idea of living. So coming back to that concentration, to that meditation of being ever present. And as I said, not to close the eyes for the world around. It's basically being even more open for the world, because instead of planning ahead, we are adapting to the slightest movements. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
Getting a little sun.
Yeah, the sun is coming in your face. Beautiful. No, I really liked. I get kind of touched by what you're saying with these perennials right outside our window. This, wow, they're creating so much beauty in their seeds, and then they're giving them over, and they have no idea who's gonna take over, and if they're even going to be something, right? All the seeds are potential, and they don't even know. And some seeds might be eaten, and that's beautiful. Then that's what's there, and they create so many more seeds than what they need for, like, if a cherry wanted to be super effective, it would create one seed, like one cherry to be one seed to plant. But instead, it just creates 100 and 100. So there's food, there's cherries that just falls on the ground and become compost. Maybe not. If we had a cherry tree, then they would all get eaten. I don't know.
Maybe by you.
So just to say that there's such an abundance, like they don't even need to have any sort of scarcity in, like, will any future cherry trees come? It's just like, no. Let me just create as much beauty, as much love, as much, like, gifting the world all these beautiful cherries. And then they will enrich so much also themselves, because it's like falling down, becoming compost for the tree itself. So yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. I feel like we could continue this conversation for so much longer. But also, speaking of human planning, in a few moments, I have to talk with this wonderful lady about coming with us on our autumn retreat. So, it's also now your face is full of sun. That's beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Is there anything you feel important to share here at the end? Something that you feel called that wasn't brought in?
I feel like just one thing as a reminder and maybe a starting point, which I learned to find I love the greater self. You might start to see that the greater self is a place in your brain. It's a placement in there, and you can find it. It's there all the time. So by starting of having an idea that somewhere in the center of all your thoughts, in the center of all your feelings and emotions, there is that one spot where it is just silent. And we are so much out there and doing things that it is sometimes difficult to find that. But I'm pretty sure you know what I mean. These are those moments when you wake up from a deep sleep before the brain is even starting of getting into something. I hope you have those. And this is the moment where you are there already. So it's nothing new to establish. It's just a tiny tweak of seeing it. Yeah, this is a place in me already. That center axis, and from there on, a big exploration can start.
Thank you. And I guess what I would add to that is that with plants, they have their own wisdom, their own sovereignty, their own power, their own presence. And when we work with them, we can ask them to help us activate our presence, like a teacher sitting in meditation with a teacher, sitting with a teacher that can help teach us, not putting the teacher on a pedestal in the way that giving our power to them, but recognizing they do have power and they are sovereign just as we are, but like also having them helping us remembering what is there, finding those spots. And that's like, I love how plants can do that. So tangible also sometimes, like because they are also in the physical world, like they're also in the physicality like we are.
Thank you.
Thank you. And for whoever is in the conversation,
thank you for listening.
Sending you all lots of love. And if you're curious about oak, so next year Stephan is bringing out a big oak program. It's going to be amazing. And if you're curious about Blue Lotus, come back to us, or any other plant or any other thing that feels related to us, though.
Of course.
No. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.